Monday. Welcome to another week of second grade math with online learning. For this lesson, you are going to need your brain, your voice, you're going to need something to write with, and you're going to need a piece of paper because you're going to be doing a couple of problems along with me. So if you need to go get those things, just pause the video, and when you have them, press play. All right, let's get started. So in this video, we are learning a totally new thing. We are going to be working on using something called a table to sort data. And so first of all, I'm just going to show you how that works, and then we're going to work together to answer a couple of questions about our data. So on the agenda for today, there's no warm-up. We're just going to start right away with new words. We're going to do a little bit of practice together, and then it's going to be your turn. So our first word is category. Category means a group of people or things that have something in common. And we use categories to organize information or to sort things, which is what we'll be doing today. Data is just a set of facts or pieces of information. You could have data about anything, but it's just a set of information. A table is a chart that we use to organize data. So we would come up with a bunch of categories, and we would use our table to organize or sort our data by categories, which is what we're about to do. And then a tally mark is just a way to count using lines. You've seen tally marks before a lot at school. So when I sort my data and I make a table, the first thing I do is I think of categories. For this example, my data is going to be lots of different kinds of animals. And so what I did was I looked at the pictures of the animals and sorted them into categories of what kind of animal they are. I could have picked a different kind of category, but that's what I picked for this. So I picked birds, mammals, reptiles, and fish. So now I'm going to show you my pictures and my labels. So these are all of my animals that we're going to be working with today. And I labeled them with what kind of animals. So this penguin's a bird. Here's a fish. This is a polar bear, which is a mammal. I've got an Arctic fox, and I've got a lot of other animals we're using. So we're going to call all of these animals our data. And the categories I labeled them with, those are categories. So mammals, fish, those are categories. So my job is to create a table. And my first step was to sort the data, which is what I already did. I gave each animal a category. My next step is to create the actual table. So I'm going to draw a chart with space to record how many are in each category. So I made my chart, and my title is animals, because that's what all of the data is. And then I have each category here off to the side, ready for me to fill it in with how many are in each category. So now's the most fun part. What I get to do now is I get to just record my data. I can count how many are in each category, and then I'll go ahead and draw tally marks to show that amount. So I know it's a little small here, but I want you to go ahead and count with me. We're going to start off with birds. So look really closely, and we're going to count how many birds we have. So I see 1 bird, 2 birds, 3, 4. So I would draw 4 tally marks for my birds. Next up, we're going to do mammals. So I'm going to look for mammals and see how many I can count. All right, let's count together. I've got 1 mammal, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I'm going to draw 8 tally marks. One thing about tally marks that I don't want you to get tricked by is every time we get to 5, we draw 1 across to make a group of 5. So let's look for that here with mammals. So I had 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5. And then 6, 7, 8. So I had 8 mammals in all. Next up, reptiles. So let's go ahead and count them. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 reptiles. So we've got 5 right there. You see that little diagonal one again. And then for fish, there's not very many fish. Just 1, 2, 3, and I don't see any fish over here. So I'm going to draw 3 tally marks for my fish. Now I'm all done making my table, and this table is ready for us to ask some questions. That's going to be the really fun part that we get to do all together is look at our table together and ask and answer all sorts of different questions about it. So we're done with our table. Let's move on to our questions. So this is kind of more the practice part. Is we're going to try together to answer a bunch of questions about our data. So our first question is, how many categories does this table have? So first off, I want you to think and I want you to count how many categories it has. Remember, categories means the different groups that we sorted the animals into. So the something that they had in common. If you thought that we had 4 categories, you are correct. We have the birds, the mammals, the reptiles, and the fish. And so that's 4 categories total. The next question we want to ask is, how many animals did we sort all together? That question's asking you, how many total animals are there? I wonder, do you think we're going to use addition or subtraction to find this one out? I would probably use addition because I'm trying to find my total and I have numbers for all of my parts. So I'm going to write an addition sentence to find the total number of animals. So there's 4 birds, 8 mammals, 5 reptiles, and 3 fish. Now that I have my addition sentence, I'm going to look and kind of put on my math detective eyeballs and see if there's any groups that I know. So I would say 8 plus 4 is 12, 5 plus 3 is 8, and then I'd add together 8 plus 12, and my total is 20. So that is 20 animals altogether. Next question, how many more birds and mammals are there than reptiles and fish? That's kind of a confusing question, so I'm going to read it one more time. How many more, that's a clue that I'm going to be comparing. Birds and mammals, so that's a group of birds and mammals, are there than reptiles and fish? So that's another group, reptiles and fish. I'm going to need to write down a number sentence to figure out really what's going on with this problem. But it's asking me to compare the group of birds and mammals to the group of birds and fish. So first off, I just want to find out how many are in each group. So how many are there if I put the birds and mammals together? And then how many are there if I put the reptiles and fish together? Let's write some number sentences. So I want you to go back up to the table and see how many birds and how many mammals are there, and write a number sentence putting those together. So pick up your pencil and let's write that number sentence. Then I want you to write a number sentence for reptiles and fish, so putting the reptiles together with the fish. You should have written the number sentences 4 plus 8 and 5 plus 3. So go ahead and write those down if you haven't already, and then I want you to solve to find each subtotal, really. So 4 plus 8 was 12, and 5 plus 3 was 8. So that means there's 12 birds and mammals, and then there's 8 reptiles and fish. But we're not done, because the question was asking us how many more birds and mammals are there than reptiles and fish. So now we need to compare this number 12 to this number 8. When I compare, that means I'm finding the difference. And so I'm either going to subtract to find out the space in between or count on from the smaller number to get up to the bigger number. So let me show you what I mean. So how many more is always a clue that we're finding the difference. And so what that looks like is I either do 8 plus something gets to 12, the bigger number, or I subtract the smaller number from the bigger number, so 12 minus 8. I like to use counting on sometimes to solve this. So I'm going to start at 8 and get to 12. So 9, 10, 11, 12. I have 4, and so my missing part is 4. That means the difference is 4. So I could say there are 4 more birds and mammals than reptiles and fish. Let's try another question, and I want to see if you can do this one a little more on your own. How many fewer birds and fish, so that's a group, are there than mammals and reptiles? How many fewer is the same kind of question as how many more. It just wants to find that difference. But I noticed right away on this problem that we need to do those groups again. So we're asking about birds and fish as a group, and then we're asking about mammals and reptiles as a group. So first of all, let's write those number sentences. Let's write a number sentence for birds and fish, then let's write a number sentence for mammals and reptiles. So go up to your chart, look at those numbers, and write a number sentence for each group. Now, once you're done with that, check your work. I got 4 birds, 3 fish, so it's 4 plus 3. And then I got 8 mammals, 5 reptiles, so that's 8 plus 5. Now that you have your number sentences, go ahead and find the total for each group. So the total number of birds and fish and the total number of mammals and reptiles. So we're adding together those numbers. So I got 7 for my birds and fish and 13 for my mammals and reptiles. Now, don't get tricked, we're not done yet. We need to find out the difference. Remember, how many fewer means we're finding the difference between the totals for each of these groups. It seems a little bit complicated, but I think you can really do it. When we find the difference, you can subtract or you can count on. It's up to you. So I want you to either count on or subtract, just like this. You don't have to do them both ways. You can just pick your favorite. So I'm going to let you find your difference and get ready for me to show you the answer. So last time I did counting on, so this time I'll do subtracting. I'm doing 13 minus 7. I don't have 13 fingers, so that's kind of tricky. So I know that 13 is kind of close to 10. So 13 minus 3 would be 10. So if I took away just 3, then I'd have 4 left to subtract because 4 plus 3 is 7. So then I would take away 4 from that 10 and I would get down to 6. So you could also solve that by counting on, but 6 plus 7 is 13, or 13 minus 7 is 6. So that means there are 6 fewer birds and fish than mammals and reptiles. We're all done with that problem. We have one more question and then we're all done together. My last question is kind of the most fun one. How would this table change if after we were done sorting all of our animals, we counted 4 more birds? So we could pretend that we were counting animals that we saw, and then 4 birds came and flied in, and that changed our data. So that would mean that we'd have to change our table too. So how would our table change if we counted 4 more birds after we were all done counting? Well, to figure that out, I'd have to go to my birds right here. I had 4 right here, but then this problem is asking me to put 4 more in there. So what I would do is, I guess I would do 4 more. So let's count it with me. I would have 5, and then 6, 7, 8. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 more. So that means I would have, instead of 4 birds, I would have 8 birds. That also means that then I would have a different total, right? So I would have 8 plus 8 plus 5 plus 3. But since I remember that my total was 20, my new total would just be 4 more than that. So it would be 24. But that's really all that there is to it. Those are all the questions we had to solve together. On Google Classroom, there's going to be a couple more questions. One of them is going to have you sort some new data based on pictures, but it has different categories. And then some other questions are going to be kind of those comparison problems that we solved together. So do your best on those. I can't wait to see all of your work. And I'm excited to learn with you in my next math video. So that's all for now. Bye.